The steam engine was undoubtedly one of the most important aspects of America and its development. From the long freight trains stretching the western plateaus and flats, to the small plantation engines of the South, from the rugged logging locomotives of the Pacific Northwest, to the luxury passenger trains of the Mid-Atlantic, the United States and the steam locomotive most definitely coincide with one another. United States citizens were upset and immensely disappointed about the events happening during the early 1970s. Events including Nixon's impeachment, the Vietnam War, the first major oil crisis, and other calamities. In all this turmoil, there was a man with an idea, a way to motivate and spread joy across the country. This is the story of Ross Roland Jr. and the American Freedom Train. Born in 1940, Ross E. Roland Jr. came from a family of American railroad workers, with his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all having railroad-related careers. After moving with his family to Cranford, New Jersey in 1945, he would frequently visit the C&J Roundhouse to admire steam locomotives being serviced. This, in addition to his railroad heritage, heavily influenced Roland's interest in railroads and steam locomotives. At the age of 17, Roland would invest in future exchanges in New York after a local friend of Cranford gave him the offer. Later, in 1966, he not only founded Floor Brokers Associates Incorporated, but he became the head of the precious metals trading company COMEX and founded the High Iron Company Incorporated, which restored steam locomotives that would later be used in northeastern steam excursions. 3 years later, he would run the Golden Spike Centennial Limited excursion in 1969, which ran all the way from New York to Utah. Everything was going well for Ross Roland, but he knew about a very important event, and without his contributions, the American bicentennial would be unnoticed by most U.S. citizens. In order to spread awareness, Roland had an idea. This idea would set in motion in 1970. In 1970, Ross Roland founded the AFT Foundation, also known as the American Freedom Train Foundation. The AFT Foundation was a non-profit organization made to commemorate and educate people about the United States and its bicentennial. The AFT Foundation would commemorate the bicentennial by running an excursion train with a consist of 26 cars filled with American memorabilia and artifacts. It would be pulled by one of 3 massive American steam locomotives. These locomotives were Southern Pacific No. 4449, Texas and Pacific No. 610, and Reading No. 2101. The excursion would visit all U.S. states except for Hawaii and Alaska. The American Freedom Train would start its journey in 1975. Starting on April 1st of 1975, the Freedom Train began its trip from Wilmington, Delaware. Being pulled by former Reading No. 2101, the train went over 700 miles to meet former Southern Pacific No. 4449 in Chicago, sometime between July and August. By then, the train was already making a profit, with hundreds of people buying tickets. In a nose-to-nose ceremony, number 4449 began its portion of the trip, passing through cities such as Seattle and San Francisco until concluding 1975's portion of the trip in Southern California. In 1976, when the train was in California, it was displayed by the Queen Mary ocean liner in Long Beach. On February 17th, Texas and Pacific number 610 took the train from SP 4449, but less than a month later, 4449 took the train back in Fort Worth, Texas. The locomotive took the train all the way to Birmingham, Alabama, when Reading 2101 returned to finish the rest of the trip on Memorial Day. On the 4th of July, the United States turned 200 years old. At this time, the Freedom Train was displayed at the New Cumberland Army Depot in Pennsylvania. Florida was the last destination in the American Freedom Train's journey. When the crew reached Florida, they shot fireworks out of the crew car as celebration. The Freedom Train concluded its journey in Miami, being displayed from December 26, 1976 to New Year's Eve. The Freedom Train Foundation restored 3 locomotives exclusively to pull the excursion. One of these locomotives was former Southern Pacific number 4449. After having a short career on the Southern Pacific from 1941 to 56, number 4449 was displayed at the Oaks Amusement Park in Portland, Oregon. When the Freedom Train was looking for locomotives to pull their excursion, they saw great opportunity in number 4449 for a few reasons. Not only did she look great with her stylish, streamlined exterior, but she was also in great condition and wouldn't take much to restore. She was chosen to pull the train while on the West Coast and in the Southwest and Southeast states. Today, Southern Pacific number 4449 is still a famous steam excursion star and is one of the most famous steam locomotives in the world. Number 4449 was too big for the curves and bridges of northeastern USA rails. After this realization, the Foundation found former Reading number 2101 and 2100 in a scrapyard in Baltimore, Maryland. Ross Roland decided to buy both of the locomotives in 1975. He restored number 2101 by cannibalizing number 2100 for parts. This process only took 30 days. Number 2101 was painted blue with a thick red stripe on the side and renamed AFT number 1 and was the first to pull the excursion. After the Freedom Train excursion, she would go on to pull the Chessie Steam Special from 1977 to 78. After a terrible fire in a Chessie roundhouse, number 2101 was in poor condition and couldn't pull any more excursions. Currently, Reading number 2101 is on static display outside of the Baltimore and Ohio Roundhouse in Baltimore. Texas and Pacific number 610 was built in 1927 for freight trains across Texas. After retiring in 1950, number 610 traded owners until settling in Fort Worth on static display in 1955. After some legal trouble, number 610 risked being scrapped, but luckily it was bought by David F. Pearson with help from other railroad enthusiasts, later being moved to Fort Worth Army Depot in 1969. After raising money to restore number 610 to operational condition, she ran her first excursion in 1970, but the foundation struggled to raise money to keep her running. In 1974, the T&P Foundation and the AFT Foundation partnered together to get number 610 running again. The locomotive ran the excursions from Austin to Dallas, having a very short career in the Freedom Train. Afterwards, the Southern Railway leased the locomotive to run more excursions from 1977 to 80. The locomotive went to a few museums afterwards before settling in Palestine, Texas, where she remains today. Before the Freedom Train, steam excursions were very uncommon. Some excursions include the Farewell to Steam excursions and the Golden Spike Centennial Limited. But after the Freedom Train, there were many more steam locomotives being restored and operated in the United States. To this day, there are over 150 steam locomotives being operated all throughout the United States. The Freedom Train was one of the first large excursions and most likely the largest and longest steam excursion ever to run in the United States. It was a major reason as to why steam excursions flourished in the 1980s and 90s, and even to the present day. It's rumored that there will be another Freedom Train excursion in 2026 for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. This could be another turning point for American steam excursions. The American Freedom Train left a large impact on the United States and its people. When there was disorder in the country, the Freedom Train was still continuously bringing joy to almost every state. Not only did it give insight to citizens about the history of their country, but it was a trailblazer that paved the way for other steam locomotives to be restored and operated. The American Freedom Train was an embodiment of the pride of the United States and its prior 200 years of history, a major turning point for the future of the country and American steam preservation.